fast, everything just stopped. And so he comes up to me and he's like, hey, I heard you're a hooper. I was like, yeah, man, play ball, whatever. And he's like, all right, show me what you got.
All right, man, got my guy, Ameer.
Finally, long overdue.
Long overdue, man, long overdue, man.
My name's Ameer, Instagram handle Ameer_season. I'm a college athlete. Just here to, you know, share my wisdom, share my experiences with everybody, with the audience and everything. And I appreciate you for having me. It's dope. It's the first of many, hopefully, you know?
First of many, man. So tell people, what's the transition? How's it been like for you from high school to college? What are you finding, you know, academically, on the court, off the court, socially? How's it been? How's the transition been?
There's a lot that goes into that question. I think one of the main things in terms of academically, I think it's just a lot more be on your work. Like, make sure you're finishing everything on time. Make sure you're not leaving anything to the end. I used to have a habit of that in high school. I used to just leave things to the end, bro, and like literally like hours before it's due, just hand it in. You can't do that in college because they don't care, bro. You know what I mean? So they're not exactly. In terms of socially, my courses are all online. So I chose to do that because obviously I moved out and then have rent and things to pay for, so I need to work. So that was just like a personal decision to make it online. So I just go to college for practice and stuff. So socially, it's been all right. You know, I keep in touch with my people for the most part. And then, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the main differences that I realized. So.
Sounds good, man. How about tell people actually how your high school journey was and like the process of becoming a collegiate player. You can start as far back when you first started playing. Whatever.
Okay. So we'll start just before COVID happened. So just before COVID happened was my grade 10 year in school ball. And
you're a COVID baby.
Yeah, man. So that was my grade 10 year, and it was cut short. So my competitive season was cut short, and everything just kind of just stopped. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of just like a thing where like my life was so fast. Like, I used to school, work, and then ball every day, you know? Like, leave 6 a.m. and then come home, it's like 10 p.m., you know? And then all of a sudden it just stopped. Like, everything just stopped, you know? And then so when it comes to basketball, that was the first thing I had to encounter, was like, do I still want to do this? Like, how much do I love this? And obviously being alone and everything, COVID ruined a lot of people's lives. And also bettered a lot of people's lives. But for me, it's like, how do I cope with like just not being able to do anything? So I bought a net from Canadian Tire, I remember, and then I just stuck it up in my driveway and I just put in shots up. And then it reminded me every day like how much I love this. And so right as soon as COVID ended, when they had tryouts again for teams and whatever, I tried out for Believe. And I got cut. That was the first time I ever got cut from a basketball team in my entire life.
That shit stings, bro.
So I was devastated. I was like, wow, like this really happened right now. And so, you know, I dwelled over it for a couple days, and then I kind of just came to the realization, like, yo, like, this sucks, but it's time to do something about it. You know? So it lit a fire in me. So working every single day in the gym, weights, lifting, agility, all sorts of training. And then so I had a conversation with my brother, and I was like, yo, like, I really want to do this. Like, college basketball is what I'm going to do. And I ended up I went home this one time from the gym, and I was like, I'm going to write it down on a piece of paper, stick it on my wall in my room, and every morning, every time I walk out of that room, I'm going to read that.
That's big,
I know. So I did that, and then once I told my brother, we started going to Toronto every single weekend, just looking for opportunity. I met some coaches, I met some trainers, just built a network.
So this is this past summer?
Yeah, so all of this was happening like 2021, leading up to 2022. So
and then we met after you already started.
We met after within this whole process is when we met. And so just reaching out to different trainers, reaching out to different teams, and then it's crazy how I actually got my opportunity. So we were at an event for an album release party for a friend of one of my brother's friends, who's also my friend now, and there happened to be a recruiter at that party. He was a friend, and so one of my guys told the recruiter, he was close with the recruiter, he's like, hey, like, this guy plays ball, you should, like, you know, connect with him, whatever. And so he was like, all right, cool. And it's crazy that it's like a business venue.
Yeah.
But at that venue, there was a little basketball court.
Yeah,
It's insane. Like, what are the odds? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so he comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, I heard you're a hooper." I was like, "Yeah, man. Like, play ball, whatever." And he's like, "All right, show me what you got."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay." And I'm like wearing jeans.
Yeah.
I'm wearing 12s. I'm wearing like I'm not dressed to play whatsoever. But I was like, "Let's do it. Like, whatever." So I went. I just put a couple shots up, whatever. Boom. And so he's like, after, like, he liked it. We played twos and everything, and he was like, "All right, cool, you're solid." So we got his contact after, and then like a week goes in, and he texts me. He's like, "Do you want to play for Centennial College?" And I'm with my brother at the time. I'm like, "What the hell is Centennial College?" I never heard of it, nothing.
Yeah.
And so I text him. I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely, why not? Like, sure." And then at first I was like, "What are they offering?" Because I was looking for like a scholarship or whatever. And then he's like, I mean, it was late August. So like that's when they stopped recruiting. But I was able to like fit in a little bit. He was able to like pull some strings or whatever. So I go to Toronto. I think like that next weekend or the weekend after, and I meet with the coach. Shout out Coach Mike. God bless him. And he just put me through like a couple tryouts, like with the team and everything, just training with them. And at the end, he liked what he saw, and he saw the commitment. And he's like, he's the only person out of all of those trips to Toronto that gave me an opportunity and actually believed in me. So that meant a lot to me. Absolutely. It only takes one guy. There you go.
Just need the platform.
Exactly. And then that's pretty much from there is when the college journey started. There's a lot of ups and downs, man. There's a lot of just doubting myself. Every time I go to Toronto, come back with nothing. It's like, what am I really doing this for?
Yeah.
You know?
I've been there, bro. Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much it. It's crazy.
This
been
is
a crazy
crazy.
couple of
Makes
years.
you think of how networking, bro. Like, what's the odds you go to shoot a music video with somebody, or
You know what I mean?
release or whatever, and it's like
crazy.
Really
right place, right
sometimes,
time.
man.
It's literally just right place, right time.
Sure.
You never know who's watching. You never know who's there. That's why you always got to be on your best behavior, especially as an athlete. That's one thing that people underestimate a lot. Like, always behave properly, and it goes a long way, even just as a human.
Sure, man. So it kind of takes me to my next question is, what do you think was the biggest obstacle you had to face? Would you say it was COVID, or is it something else?
Once I started playing, or before?
Once you started playing, like just throughout your high school journey, and then let's go this year as well in college. What's the hardest?
Yeah, so I'd say before I started playing, it was just getting to college, just that stress. It's like, is this really gonna work? I'm doing all this, I'm investing all this money into trips. It's not, gas isn't cheap. Going to Toronto. Crashing at people's cribs.
In there, man.
Exactly.
We all have the same struggle.
You know what I mean?
So it's crazy.
Exactly. So that was the main thing I struggled with, is just that doubt, having that self-doubt and everything. And then once I got to the college level, it was a whole different story, because I struggled mainly with loneliness. Because I'm not used to being away from home. From Ottawa, it's a very homey city. I only have a family of 4. It's me, my brother, mom, and dad. That's it.
You can get eat alive in Toronto, man.
Exactly. And then you go to Toronto, and it's just like, holy. It's just, everything's so fast. It's a big city, so many more people. And you're like, oh my God, like, where am I right now? And then so the one thing I really struggled was being away from family, being away from my friends. And just, because I'd come home, 4 walls around me and a TV, like
it's the college grind, bro.
Exactly. And then you just repeat every day, train, work, school. So that was the main thing I struggled with, was that kind of build that routine, and then you kind of just get used to it eventually, but it never really escapes you. At least for me personally. It still sucks. Like, I hate not being able to be there for my parents, especially now they're getting old. So like, you need to take care of them, any little thing, And so it's just something you get used to. But I think loneliness is the main thing that I struggled with as I started playing. It was all mental. It was all in your head.
It's hard to imagine until you get into that situation. I remember my first time, bro. I was a kid. I went to prep school. I was like 16, 17. I get there, and bro, I'm like crying. Bro. I'm like, oh,
exactly,
like,
bro.
It's like,
it's tough. It's tough.
And it's only hit me when like the last like 20 kilometers or so. When I see the GPS, I'm like, well, I'm 20 kilometers away from being alone, bro. Like, it's crazy, man. But
it's terrifying, bro. It's a scary scene.
It is, bro.
And I have my brother that lives with me too, and even then, like, it still feels weird. Like, I'm not entirely alone. Like, God bless my brother, but it still feels that way. You know what I mean? Man. Just because, just away from everything, still new to everything too. So I think that was the main thing that I really struggled with.
Yeah, I hear you, bro. So what would you say, what's the biggest change you noticed between high school ball and collegiately, maybe coaching styles? Let's touch on practices. Like, what do you go to?
I'm going to start off with saying that Ottawa basketball is pathetic, honestly. I mean, I love it because it's where I grew,
man, it's
but
real,
it's no disrespect to any teams or nothing like that, but I'm just saying, like, when you reach that level, I don't think Ottawa basketball prepares you to get to that level. I think the reason I was prepared was because I went to Toronto every weekend and trained with these guys and seen all these players and stuff, and ran into like pros and stuff. But here, it really doesn't prepare you because when it's in Toronto, like Toronto's like America. They're just gonna slap you in the face. You know what I mean? And that was the biggest impact I realized because it's like, what the hell is a 4-hour practice? When have I ever had a 4-hour practice? And now I'm doing 4 of them in a week.
In Centennial, y'all doing
4-hour practice, 6 to 10, 6 p.m. to 10, 4 days a week. So 2 hours lifting and then 2 hours on court.
Yeah, 2 hours lifting.
But still, it's like that's a lot of time devoted, you know?
But that's at the collegiate level, though. Like,
exactly.
I'm sure Toronto high schools where they
100%. I'm sure like in high school in Toronto, it's a lot different. I'm sure like they actually prepare you. But in terms of Ottawa, I think they need to step up a little bit. And hopefully we need to get more guys like you and even myself to like, you know, put that out there. And that's why I'm doing this right now, so I can share that wisdom. But I think the main thing is just the intensity level. Like they care. You can't. There's no such thing as an air ball. You air ball, you're sitting down. Like that's it. They're gonna call you up. Exactly. Why are you airballing? Like we don't bring you for this.
You're not getting shots up.
Exactly. You're not finishing a 17 under a minute. What are you doing? Like get in shape. It's little things, and you just have to be so mentally tough.
They'll bark at you, bro.
Oh man, the screaming. I had to. That was tough for me first. I'm like, yo, why am I letting another man scream at me right now? You know what I mean? And you just come to realize that at the end of the day, it comes out of love. Yeah, exactly. It comes from love, and it comes from a good place because they want you to succeed, and that's why they're yelling at you. So it took a while to realize that, but once you do it, it makes life a lot easier. Yeah,
for sure, man. Could you think about a specific game or moment in time this season where you feel like things got better or maybe got worse, or somewhere like what stands out to you the most from this season?
I think in the beginning of the season, during preseason, we went up to Algoma University, and that's in Sault Ste. Marie. It's like 8 hours from Toronto, so let alone Ottawa. You know what I mean? So we took the bus, and I guess like halfway through the trip, I was kind of like, yo, this is far. Like I'm really far, and I've traveled throughout my life to like different countries. I've seen back home. I've seen the Middle East. I've seen wherever. But for some reason, this one hit different because I was so alone. Like I was even 8 hours away from my own brother. You know what I mean? So I get there and we're playing and whatever, and like everything's cool, practices, and then after the game, it was a Saturday night. After the game, we went back to the hotel. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's having pizza, and I walked outside. I just went for a walk. It was still summer. It was nice weather. So I walked outside and I was just like, what is like happening right now? Like, what is my life? Like, yes, I love playing basketball and everything, but why is it so painful? Like basketball's supposed to bring me peace, not anxiety and like stress, you know? So I literally just sat down on the curb of a McDonald's. I looked like a homeless man. And I was just like thinking. I was literally just like in my own head. I was just thinking like, damn, like I miss my parents and I do this, but I love basketball. So I was just trying to find that balance. It was so tough for me. I think that was the main thing because I never imagined basketball having the power to put me down like that. That's crazy, bro. So that was the main thing. And once I realized that, I'm like, yo, basketball is powerful, and it's all in your head. It's really all in your head. It has the power that you give it. Yeah, for sure. You know. So I think that's one thing that really stood out to me this year. As the beginning of the year, is just going through that whole phase. Was really tough.
No, it makes sense, bro. It makes you think. I think we had a call one time, bro.
We did. I remember. Yeah, that was like, bro. I was down low. I was down low. We were talking. I was asking for advice. I was like, yo, what do I do in this situation? Like, I feel terrible right now. Yeah, man. You know, I used to dread waking up and having to go to. I gotta wake up and be like, oh my god, I have to go to practice again. Yeah. You know.
Imagine that when you're you're abroad. People don't speak
I can only imagine what you did, bro. Like, I can only imagine how you did it.
We're close with our family, so it's like we're missing that. And then it's like we can't even talk to people. Even if we want to. Like,
you can't communicate.
You can try, but it's a struggle. And it's like, bro, I'm not even trying to learn a language right now. I miss my family, bro. My free time, I'm trying to call them. And, yeah, man, but it's just...
It's such a mental warfare. It's such a mental warfare.
But then that takes me to my next question, bro. What does basketball mean to you? Like, you're talking about it brings all these emotions out of you and this and that and, like, you know... Like,
I think this college experience really clarified what basketball meant to me. So... Basketball at first was a coping mechanism for me. Like obviously there's a lot of these kids that, you know, do wrong things, take drugs, do whatever, take the wrong route in life. But I felt basketball was always the one where if anything is going on in my life, just a ball and a hoop.
Yeah,
You know, just dribble, whatever. I feel like when I'm playing basketball, I'm in just a different headspace. I'm just somewhere else. You know? And that's why I fell in love with it. And that's why it was always my first love. And that's why it'll always be my first love. Because I know it can never let me down. At least that's what I thought until
this year,
until college.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yo, like, I started to hate basketball. I didn't even want to look at a basketball at some point.
Bro, I'm thinking the same. Like, I went through that, bro.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, we're all
It's
in
insane.
It together, man. It's the
Exactly.
same struggle, man. Like,
So there was a point where I didn't even want to look at a basketball.
Yeah,
I didn't want to hear I didn't want to watch NBA.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be in my own little space away from basketball. So I think that this experience taught me that balance is the most important thing in life.
Yeah.
You need a balance of life, basketball, and everything else. You know, God gave us life in a balance.
For sure, man.
And I felt as though basketball was overweighing everything.
Yeah.
So I just needed to pick myself back up and like find a balance where I can actually have a life, my parents, my friends, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And still succeed in basketball and academics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main thing for that.
Yeah, the balance thing. I remember for me, it was having friends outside of like my team. Like, they weren't even thinking about basketball. You know what I mean? That's like the trick that I use. I don't know, maybe you could try to use that. Just try to meet people outside of basketball, or maybe they love basketball, but they're just so focused on doing other things. Like, let's go have fun. Let's go, go bowling or something. And it's just like.
And I'm a strong believer that too much of anything is bad for you, no matter what it is.
For
Even
sure,
if you, to the naked eye, it looks good. Like too much good food is bad for you.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
Like the Shawarma Palace is busting,
Yeah.
but I can't have too much of it. You know what I mean?
You get a belly, you eat too much of that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so
sure.
everything needs to be a balance. There needs to be moderation.
Yeah.
That's what this time is the biggest lesson I learned this year.
So explain the balance between academics and athletics. So how's that been for you? Do you talk about balance?
In terms of academics, it'll always be more important than athletics. Because at the end of the day, I'm sure it's very cliche to say, and a lot of people have said it, but you're a student athlete. So you're a student before you're an athlete. And without your academics, you cannot play sports. And they're so very serious about that. So you have to keep your academics in check. And for me, I kind of had a hack for it being online. So for me, I'm kind of blessed that way. So I usually just dedicate one day. If I don't have a test that week or an exam or whatever the case is, I dedicate one day for me to finish everything, all my assignments, so I don't have to worry about it throughout the week, and I can just lock in on basketball and just life in general. But for those up and coming, I think that you should slightly give academics more of an importance than, as much as you love basketball, as much as you love whatever sport you're doing, always have your academics in check, because at the end of the day, it gives you something to lean on in life. Like, what if you get injured?
For sure, yeah.
What if you have a career-ending injury? What are you gonna do then?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's important, man. It's always good to think long-term for the future, rather than right now. I love playing basketball and I'm this and I'm young and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's always good to think long-term so you don't regret it in the future.
Yeah, and it opens doors for you, man. Like, some guys don't understand that. In high school, it's like, if you have a 90, the difference between having a 90 and a 75 is maybe like 30 schools that you can get into.
Exactly.
And like, that's more opportunity for some guys.
Of course,
you know
I'm sure you know that better than anybody.
Yeah, and I'm trying to tell these next generation kids, because not that I feel like I definitely could have got more if I had higher grades, but it's like, man, I want these kids to like not make the same mistake I made, where I was like, I was loafing in class, I got naturally picked up on things, so I got like my 75, 80. I was
of
cool,
course,
you know?
100%.
If I really applied myself, bro, it's like, I'm not trying to have these kids make that same
100%. And it's
mistake,
tough
so.
nowadays because we're so engraved into social media, and social media teaches us, oh, you don't need school. You look at all these guys, I'm rich, I don't have a degree. And it's like, cool, but like, what percentage of you of the world
exactly.
are like you? You know what I mean? So it's important as an athlete to silence a lot of this noise. It's very important because it can be very loud in your head, man.
Yeah,
and I know it, so.
And at worst, let's say you can at least get some money out of it. Like, you can get scholarships. You don't have to pay for
there you go.
Your tuition.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean, in Canada, they don't really give full rides, but
they
anything
tuition.
helps. They do, exactly. So that helps too.
That helps with that,
of course. And they don't realize it, man. Trust me, your academics can take you so far, even with basketball. It comes hand in hand. So.
So how would you describe, you kind of touched on it, the mental health, how would you say, like, what would you suggest someone does when they're in your situation? How'd you get over it? Just talk about some mental health, because a lot of people go through that on the low, especially guys. We don't want to talk about that. But
and you're a student athlete. I struggle with that so much because I'm like, I'm a hooper. Why am I feeling sad? Like, I can say I'm playing college basketball. Nobody else can say that. You know, very few people can say that. Sure, so it's like, why am I sad? And like, you have to, as a man, you have to put on this persona that, nothing phases me, you know? But for me personally, getting closer to my religion was the most important thing. That's why I wear this every day. So
what is that for people?
So this is it's called dhikr, which is the remembrance of God.
Okay.
So every time I wear this, when I look at it, I just remember God, and it's beads. So like you just go through it and like you just say God's names and things like that. Thank God. And just little things like that. So I think that I used to go to the mosque every day before practice. I used to just sit there and just like talk to God, because mind you, I used to hate it. I used to be like, I don't want to go to practice. So when I go to the mosque and like just think about God and everything, it would bring me a lot more peace. And the one thing, I think one of the very important things that happened within all of this was it brought me closer to my religion. I'm very happy for that, and it brings me a lot of inner peace every single day till this day. So I think that's one way to do it. I don't know how many people are. I mean, hoopers are generally
I feel like I'm definitely
most of them are religious. Exactly. So I think that's one of them that you could do. I think talking to people is very important. I was very antisocial. I was there, I was just very to myself. Like even with my teammates, it took me a long time to like mesh with them. You know, like I was just very to myself. Always in my thoughts, like, oh, like I miss my parents and I have to do this and I have to do that. So
I had a phase like that too. It's so crazy hearing this, man. It's so similar, man.
It's crazy, and it ties back to balance. Once you find that balance, your mental is just gonna be impeccable, and you're gonna be unstoppable. Because you can't hoop if your mental is not there. And I used to struggle. Like at the beginning of the season, I sucked. Like I was not what I was going like performing in that tryout. Like even coach used to ask me, he's like, "Are you good?" Like, and I reached out to my coach a bunch of times too. Like I talked to him, like, "Hey, have this happening?" No, my college coach. Oh, okay. He's cool. Like it's very important. Talk to people. Talk to your coach. Your coach loves you no matter what. You know what I mean? Like your coach wants the best for you no matter what. So talk to people. Don't try to be Superman. Trust me, I've tried. You know, like my dad's like that. My dad's like, them immigrant parents, bro. Like I'm Superman, and I get it, but like sometimes it helps to talk. So I think voicing yourself, especially if you're in a situation like mine where I was away from family and away from people, where you couldn't physically talk to people, just call them. Call your parents whatever you want. Call your friends, whatever. Talk to them 100%. And be honest with them. Be like, hey, listen, like this is what I'm feeling. Talk to somebody you're comfortable with. For me, I used to talk to my brother a lot. I talked to you. I talked to coach himself. And so just find the people that you're comfortable with talking to, and then I feel like that'll help you a lot with your mental. It just gets things off your chest.
For sure. So you kind of touched on the dynamic between you and your team. How would you describe that versus, you know, your collegiate team versus your high school team? Like for me, I remember with high school, it was like those are my brothers, you know, but college, it's like you're meeting these guys, like you can form a bond pretty closely, but it's like high school, that's like you might see the same guys for 4 years versus college. You might be like for me, I went to a different college every year. So how would you describe like the dynamic between like how close you were with your guys in high school or college, or even next level is the pro level, which hopefully you'll get to experience one day. It's like we had guys that are in uni coming to practice, they go about their own life. You had married people, married guys, they come in
with kids and everything.
They got their mom, their wife, and their kid coming into practice at the end. They're running off with them. So it's like then there's just like me, like the North Americans. I'm just I'm there to hoop, you know, like so it's like I'm trying to find my crowd where. You know, it's tough, man. So talk about that, like how to find your people or how you went about it. Like, what's the dynamic like in college?
So at first, for high school, I mean, it's Ottawa High School. So I'd like to think of myself as the leader of that team. So I came in. I forgot to mention in the first question where I played on my journey. So I actually was online for high school, and I didn't plan on going back to school.
What year?
So this is grade 12. So grade 11, there wasn't a basketball season. And so grade 12 happened, and I'm like, I need film. I need people to, you know.
We got to talk about that later.
Exactly, So I need film. So I actually ended up reaching out to the athletic coordinator at my school, at my high school, and I was like, yo, listen, like, please let me in. Like, please, I just want to play for the basketball team. Like, I'll do whatever. So I did my courses in school just to play basketball on that team. That's it, just for like an 8-week season. And got my film or whatever. But in terms of the dynamic with my teammates, I came in and I was like, yo, we're going to win this. Like, that's it. Like, I'm here. I have unfinished business here. I never won. And I was like, yeah, we're going to win this. Ended up losing by 1 in the finals, but it is what it is. You know, it was a tough game, but it was a great season, honestly. So I think with that, it's like most of them looked up to me. You know what I mean? They were like, okay, like, we're going to follow your lead. And then I go to the college level, and I have to kill my ego and kill
Yeah.
like all of my thoughts. It's like, this isn't high school anymore.
Yeah.
You're just on their level or worse,
Yeah.
depending on how you perform,
Yeah.
right? So you have to really humble yourself. Like, you can't go into it being like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. No, that
You
doesn't
haven't done
work.
anything yet. No one's gonna respect you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And being from Ottawa too.
Yeah.
Man, I walked in that gym. People asked me, "You're from Ottawa, bro?
Yeah.
What the hell's in Ottawa?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yo, I have a lot to prove right now.
Yeah.
Because they're rough and tough out there,
Yeah,
bro. Like, it's
sure,
just hitting everything. So that took a while to mesh with my teammates because I had so much to prove. Like, they didn't respect me at first. They're like, "This is Ottawa kid." Like, they're obviously respectful on a base level of humanity.
Yeah.
But when it comes to basketball, they're like, "Who is this kid?"
Yeah.
You know? And obviously I'm not 6'8" dunking on 8 people
Yeah.
at a time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard. I've never been that way. I've always had to work extra hard for every piece of skill, every little bit of skill that I have. Just because I'm not the most athletically gifted.
Yeah.
You know? So I used to be a chubby kid too.
Yeah. Me
So-
too, man. That's crazy, bro.
I used to be
I
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
I used to be like a little chubby
Yeah.
kid. So once I got my physique, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm never going back to
Yeah,
that ever
yeah,
again.
yeah.
No matter what happens, I'm not going
Sure.
back to that.
Yeah.
So that was a big motivator for me to keep going too.
That's what's up, man. All right. So, what do you think is the key to success as a basketball player in college?
The key to success to succeeding in college basketball is getting out of your own head.
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, is kill your ego and just hoop. Because a lot of times your ego can get in your way, and that's how you become emotional, and that's how you get to the point where you're like, oh, I'm not good enough, and you start to doubt yourself, and then you start to give negative energy towards your team, where you're like, oh, like, you start to feel jealousy for your own teammates. Like, if you see another guy succeeding, you're like, oh, snap, like, I wish that was me.
Yeah. Like, why
So-
am I not playing that many minutes or why?
Exactly, yeah. And you start to, like, not understand. It's like, for me at the beginning, I was like, yo, I switched cities,
Yeah.
and I left my family
For this. Yeah.
to play 5 minutes in a game,
Yeah.
like, you know, if that. And so killing your ego and making sure your mental is straight, make sure your mental is right. Because like I said before, if your mental is not good, your performance on the court is going to be terrible. You're just always going to be thinking about stuff. You're not going to be sharp. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, which leads you to get yelled at even more, and it's just the chain cycle of bad things happening. So make sure your mental's straight. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah.
Because for me, before I got to college, I'm like, yo, college basketball is going to be lit.
Yeah.
I'm excited. And then you get into it and you're like, it's not as glamorous as people make it seem whatsoever.
Everything has its pros and cons. But
Exactly.
when you
And I didn't know what the cons were until I got into it. So I think taking care of your mental, making sure you have a routine for your mental, and that'll come hand in hand with your physical. Obviously, when you're in college, they're gonna have therapy for you, physical therapy and recovery and all that stuff. So you'll be taken care of in that aspect, but nobody can take care of your mental. It's just yourself.
Yeah, for sure. What are some routines that you think help?
Prayer, for me, prayer is very important. Reaching out to people, talking to people is very important. Breathing is very underrated. Breathing, eating
man.
well.
Yeah.
Eating well is very important. If you don't eat well, you're going to feel terrible.
You are what you eat. Yep.
Exactly. Eating well is very important. Connecting, socializing, finishing school. Anything that can give you stress, try your best to eliminate it.
Yeah.
So leaving things to the last minute, school-wise. Not talking to people for a while.
Yeah.
Anything that has things to do with that, I try to eliminate as much as possible.
Yeah.
But I think the main one for me is prayer, hence why I said it first. So
Yeah, for sure. Big believer in prayer, man. We're different religions, but I still
Same God.
Same God,
At the end of the
exactly.
day, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So-
for real, bro.
Real
Same
shit,
God, man.
real,
People
man.
forget that, man. But we're all one, bro. It's just
Exactly.
might be some little
No matter what it
differences here,
is.
but it's all the same. Man.
Exactly, bro.
For sure. So, what would you say? What would you give? What advice would you give to a younger athlete who aspires to play in college? What would you say to them?
Ask questions.
Yeah.
Learn. Be open. You're not LeBron. Like, be open.
Even LeBron asks questions.
Even LeBron asks
Yeah.
questions. There you go.
Yeah,
Even the greatest
yeah.
of the greats.
Yeah.
Always be open to learning. Don't be so closed-minded.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people, especially in Ottawa, a lot of these athletes are like, oh, yeah, I'm cooking everybody in Ottawa, so I can cook everybody around the world.
Yes.
Until somebody slaps them in the face, and then they're
Yeah.
humbled. And then they're like, oh, my God, what just happened?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a speck too. It's just so small.
It's so
in the
small.
bigger,
And then
scheme of
these kids
things.
make it seem so big in their head. Which I don't blame them. At the end of the day, like, if you're doing good,
Yeah.
pat yourself on the back,
Yeah, exactly.
but don't settle.
keep it in perspective, you know? Like,
Exactly.
It's not that big a deal as you think. Like,
Exactly.
If you're not at least the best in Ontario, even if you are, it's like, then there's Canada, and then there's
North America.
And there's guys from
Europe,
Africa.
and then,
Europe. When you become a pro, like on my team, there's guys from Africa, there's guys from Europe, there's guys different countries in Europe, there's guys from, you know, like I'm from Canada.
Exactly.
I had an American teammate. So it's like, it's a worldwide game, man. People don't understand
and
that.
it's growing.
So,
it's only growing.
Yeah.
Especially in Canada. After the Raptors won in 2019, my God.
Exactly.
Everybody wants to hoop now.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I think that's huge. That's actually, it's huge to be wanting to learn more all the time. Don't be satisfied, man. Because even all these people, even elders, even coaches are still learning. You know, Coach used to always tell us, like, we're going to build a culture and we're going to do it, like, together. You know, like, even he's learning. So he's like, like, we're going to, like, if I'm doing anything wrong, criticize me. Tell me. I want to learn. So be open to criticism. Don't take anything personal. I feel like a lot of people struggle with that. Like, if somebody tells you, like, oh, you did this wrong, they're trying to argue with you. No, like, but I did this, and they're trying to make excuses. Like, no. Take it in. If you agree with it, disagree with it, that's all you. That's a whole different thing. But take it with respect and like take it as respect, because honestly, if you're in practice and coaches aren't yelling you, that's a bad sign.
He doesn't care.
If they're not yelling at you, that's a bad sign, because that means he doesn't care. Like, you can mess up, do whatever you want. It doesn't bother him whatsoever. You're just going to be sitting on the bench right beside him. But if he is talking to you and yelling at you and guiding you, that's a good sign. It's painful, but you have to learn to not take it personally. So always be open to learning and always be open to criticism. That's very important.
And so it's kind of, I want to go back to just Ottawa and basketball in Ottawa in general. What do you think, what's the one thing if Ottawa did differently that would help us competing with the Torontos or the New York or the Cali of the world, man?
The big cities, eh?
Yeah.
We need to build grit. So we need to find a way to make it really tough on these kids, because all these kids act like a lot of people want to get out the hood. These Ottawa kids want to get in the hood. You know what I mean? So
it's crazy, man.
It for me personally, it doesn't make sense to me, but we just need to build that genuine grit. You know, like, I'm not saying go to the hood, but I'm just saying, like, have that sense of urgency to where, like, if you mess up, hold yourself accountable. Accountability is very important. A lot of these kids are like, oh yeah, I like, even as little as airballing. Once you get to the point in your career of basketball to where, like, any little mistake, a turnover, you dribble off your foot, or like an airball, those things matter, like, a lot. Especially when you get to the college level, because like you said, they're going to call you out for it. So accountability, just more accountability. I think that's the main thing. All of everything that I said just tied back to accountability. So holding our younger generation accountable for every little thing, on and off the court. We're too soft. Way too soft. And that's why when I went to college in Toronto, they're like, oh, Ottawa kid. You know?
They see it, man.
They can sense it right away.
For sure, man. Anything you want to say, just to close off? Anything on your mind that you want to talk about? Or
I mean, stay tuned for a lot more happening in my life personally. I'm still growing my brand and everything. Shout out to everybody that, you know, stuck through the journey and still in the journey. It genuinely means a lot, and there's a lot more coming. A couple tournaments happening where I'm going to be participating, and there's some contests I'm going to be judging and stuff. So only up from here, and just hopefully more work and more hooping.
Yes,
and
sir.
Just, you know,
appreciate you for coming
Of course,
out.
man. Of course, man.
God.
Shout out Out the Mud, and then
Yes,
like I said, Ameer_season on all my socials, and hit your boy up whenever you need. I appreciate you guys for listening.
Yes, sir.
100%.
My guy.